I no longer remember the sound of my own heartbeat. The Titan's pulse has drowned it for 12 long years. The droplet of oil fell with the precision of a marksman. It landed on my console, spreading slowly across the runes of command like a living stain. I should have wiped it at once. Protocol demands perfection, but I stared instead, watching it spread, watching how it reflected the crimson lumens of the command deck above. For an instant, I thought I saw the universe captured inside that tiny sphere. A sea of red adrift in the black. That was the moment the voice of Princeps. Majoris Valen shattered my reverie. Moderati. Fenchi status report. His command cut through the chamber like a blade of steel across taut flesh. My sleeve erased the heresy of hesitation, oil vanishing into the black fabric of my uniform. My hands moved automatically, lips repeating the catechisms I had recited since my induction into the Collegia Titanica. All weapon systems nominal, void shields at full capacity, machine spirit reading stable. It was more prayer than report, more ritual than fact. The Titan heard me. It always heard me. To falter in those words was to insult its sanctity, to risk its ire. I serve within the glory of Cal, a warlord-class Titan of the Legio Praegius. For 12 years, its armored cathedral has been my world, its command deck my temple, its machine spirit my confessor. I have no other home. I must not want any other home. To feel otherwise is heresy. The command throne behind me hissed as Valen shifted. I did not turn to look. I knew too well what I would see. A body wasted, more cable than flesh, suspended in a web of steel and sacred circuitry. His mind had long ago merged with the Titan's spirit. Sometimes I wondered whether the withered man still existed at all, or if I was merely serving the voice of the god machine itself, wearing the memory of Valen's flesh. Enemy formations detected. Northeast quadrant. Came the voice of Moderati Lorak, her tone stripped of all emotion. Infantry supported by armor. Threat assessment minimal. Beneath my feet, the deck plates trembled. A shiver passed through me. The Titan hungered. It longed for war. And though the hunger was not mine, it had lived within me so long that I could no longer tell where its will ended and mine began. From below, the engines thrummed louder. The machine spirit stirred. My fingers danced across ancient runes, coaxing dormant weapons to life. Capacitors whined as they filled with energy. The volcano cannon charged, eager to spit fire hotter than suns. The Gatling blaster spun briefly, its barrels singing their hymn of death. The massive power fist flexed, hydraulics shrieking like a beast eager to rend and crush. We were not soldiers. We were a god preparing for judgment. The slits of the command deck revealed only the black horizon, intermittently broken by artillery flashes. Soon my eyes would no longer be my own. The Titan would lend me its sight. The neural interface at the base of my skull warmed, preparing for the ritual of union. In that moment I would not just see, I would become. I would no longer be Kairos Fen, child of a forge world, son of laborers. I would be wrath clad in steel and fire. Moderati Fen, the Princeps intoned. Bring primary weapons online. Plot firing solutions for enemy armor. Yes, Princeps. The air thickened with the scent of incense. The servitors chanted in their artificial voices, binary hymns offering submission to the machine god. I whispered my own litany, my lips moving soundlessly. Grant me your strength, that I may direct your wrath. Grant me your sight, that I may find your foes. Grant me your wisdom, that I may serve your will. The moment of joining approached. My heart quickened, not from anticipation, but from fear. To merge with the Titan is to touch divinity. It is also to lose oneself. Commence neural synchronization, Valen commanded. Ad Imperator. We intoned in unison. Pain. White-hot, searing. Copper flooded my tongue as I bit through my lip. It did not matter. My flesh no longer mattered. My mind expanded beyond its fragile shell, racing through conduits of fire and iron, flooding the machine's colossal frame. I stood 100 meters tall. My skin was adamantium. My veins were rivers of promethium. My heart was a roaring plasma core. Around me, dozens of lesser crew whispered in chorus. Their thoughts blurred into background sensation. Valen's presence loomed vast, dominating, guiding. Lorak's thoughts were sharp, cold, a blade of logic. And I, Kairos Fen, was both myself and something far greater. The Titan's footfall shook the earth. The world trembled before us. Through the Titan's vision, I saw them. Rebels. Tiny figures scuttling across blasted plains, armored columns advancing in crude formation. They fired. Their weapons sparked harmlessly against our void shields. "Brave but doomed. Target locked," I announced, my voice no longer my own. Volcano cannon charged and ready. "Fire!" The command resonated through our shared mind. My hand depressed the rune. A sun was born from our arm, a beam that vaporized everything in its path. Rock turned to glass. Metal vanished to vapor. An enemy tank and 50 meters of earth around it ceased to exist. Satisfaction rippled through the machine spirit. I felt it echo inside my chest, indistinguishable from my own pride. This was holy work. The Gatling blaster roared next, spitting thousands of rounds into advancing infantry. Flesh erupted into crimson mist, torn apart faster than thought. Buildings collapsed, reduced to rubble beneath our tread. Screams filled the air, too faint to matter. I felt nothing. How could I? From this height, they were insects. Yet when Valen commanded incendiary shells loaded, when I saw the city skyline ahead, its towers already burning, I hesitated. Civilians would be there, families, innocents. My throat tightened. For a moment, a memory flashed. My younger sister's eyes, proud and fearful, the day I left my homeworld. The thought was crushed at once, smothered by the weight of Valen's will or my own conditioning. I could not tell. Mercy is not the way of the Collegia Titanica. We are instruments of compliance, not salvation. The volcano cannon roared again, and a city died. The screams follow me into sleep, though the Titan never remembers them. The city burned. We strode through its avenues as a god among ants, each step shaking the bones of buildings that had stood for centuries. I guided the Gatling blaster, and with each squeeze of the rune, hundreds of lives ended. Blood fogged the air, black smoke twisted into the heavens. Somewhere below, men, women, and children screamed. I could almost hear them, almost. But the Titan's voice was louder, a choir of steel drowning all else. Hours blurred. The Titan advanced without pause. We were destruction incarnate, the Emperor's judgment made manifest. Resistance shattered, defenders vaporized or crushed beneath our colossal feet. History, art, memory, every relic of this world was consigned to ash. At last, Valen commanded a halt. The Titan stood amidst the ruins of what had once been a city center. Only rubble and glowing glass remained. The Princeps's voice resonated through our minds. Kai's Prime is compliant. The Emperor's will is done. Slowly, painfully, the neural link disengaged. The god retreated, and I was left small again, a frail creature of flesh trapped in a restraint throne. My muscles ached, jaw locked from hours of tension. The taste of blood still lingered in my mouth. "Stand down from combat stations," Valen ordered. "Perform post-battle rituals. Prepare status reports." "Yes, Princeps," we echoed in unison. Servitors shuffled forward, their half-mechanical bodies clumsy yet precise. One offered me a bulb of hydration. I drank greedily, the recycled water warm and metallic. Another disconnected secondary neural filaments from my arms and chest. Only the primary interface at the base of my skull remained. Moderati fin. I rose on shaking legs and approached the command throne. Valen regarded me with eyes sunk deep into his withered face, the only part of him that seemed human still. "Your performance was adequate," he rasped, his vox cords grinding. But I sensed hesitation during the assault. "Explain." There was no point in lying. The neural link revealed all. Undisciplined thoughts, Princeps, regarding civilian casualties. His gaze sharpened, the only part of his ruined body still capable of expression. "Such concerns are beneath us. We are the Emperor's judgment. We do not question, we execute." "Yes, Princeps. It will not happen again. See that it does not. I have invested greatly in your training. It would be unfortunate if you proved unsuitable." The threat was plain. To be unsuitable meant replacement. And those who failed the Collegia Titanica did not simply vanish. They were recycled, made into servitors, their minds wiped and their flesh repurposed. "I understand, Princeps. I am grateful for your guidance." Dismissed. I returned to my station and performed the rituals of gratitude, anointing the consoles with sacred oils, reciting prayers of thanks to the Omnissiah, compiling damage reports for the tech priests. Each task was ritualistic, as much liturgy as maintenance. Only when the rites were complete did I retreat to my quarters. My chamber was a narrow cell, austere by design. A bunk, a desk for manuals, a small shrine to the Emperor and the Omnissiah. Only one personal token adorned it. a bone pendant carved in the shape of the Aquila, gifted by a comrade who died in my first campaign. Even that bordered on sentiment, a weakness I should have purged long ago. I washed in a basin of lukewarm recycled water, then lay down. Sleep came quickly, but brought no rest. In dreams, I was still inside the Titan, still walking as a god, still bringing ruin. But there I heard what the machine would not let me hear while awake: the screams of the dying. I saw faces contorted in terror, burned into memory like ghosts clawing at the inside of my skull. I woke several times in a cold sweat, trembling in the stillness of my cell. When sleep abandoned me, my thoughts returned to the past. To my forge world, where my father worked as an artisan crafting servo components, and my mother served as a data scribe. I remembered my younger sister, her hopeful eyes as she dreamed of becoming a tech priestess. Did they still live? Did they remember me? Or had the Imperium swallowed them as it had swallowed me? Such thoughts were dangerous. Doubt was weakness. Weakness led to hesitation. Hesitation led to failure. And failure meant replacement. I rose and knelt before the shrine. The skull-faced emperor stared with eternal judgment. Beside him, the cog of the Omnissiah gleamed faintly in the lumen's light. I recited the litany of focus. My mind is a weapon. My faith is a shield. My purpose is clear. I serve the Omnissiah. I serve the Emperor, now and forever. The words calmed me, suppressing doubt, locking weakness in a far corner of my mind. The Vox crackled. All command crew to stations. Repeat, all command crew to stations. At once I rose, donned fresh robes, and traced the sign of the cog over my chest. Duty called. I was Moderati Kyros fan of the Legio Praegius. I served the glory of Cal. Nothing else mattered. The corridor thrummed with activity as I made my way to the command deck. Servitors clanked by, bearing tools and offerings of incense. Tech priests in crimson robes anointed bulkheads with oils, chanting prayers of placation. The Titan must be appeased before it walked again. On the command deck, hololithic displays shimmered with tactical runes. Moderati Lorak acknowledged me with a brief nod, her expression as ever unreadable. Princeps Valen sat upon his throne, eyes closed in communion with the machine spirit, even without full synchronization. His frail body twitched occasionally, but his presence filled the chamber nonetheless. New orders, he announced without opening his eyes. The rebellion on Kai's Prime is broken, but remnants flee northward. The glory of Cal will be transported by heavy lander to intercept before they can regroup. What opposition can we expect? Asked Lorak. Minimal, Valen replied. Their war machines lie in ruins, but they must be scourged utterly. No spark may remain to ignite rebellion anew. I checked my consoles. Weapons were cooled and hungry. Void shields recharged, glowing blue upon my displays. The Titan systems whispered readiness. Prepare for transport, Valen commanded. Fen, you will oversee the weapons lockdown procedure. The Navy captains grow uneasy when carrying a fully armed god in their holds. Yes, Princeps. The hours that followed were laborious, ritualistic. Each weapon had to be secured as if tamed. The volcano cannon drained, its immense energies bled back into the reactor. The Gatling blaster locked, its barrel silenced. The Power Fist's energy field deactivated, its hydraulics depressurized. As I worked, I whispered assurances to the Titan, as though to a restless beast. Peace, Great One. Soon you will walk again. Soon you will taste victory. Whether it heard me, I cannot say. But the console beneath my palm grew warm, as though acknowledging the words. At last, the great loading doors opened. The cavernous belly of a heavy lander loomed beyond, incense thick in the air. Tech priests scurried to spread blessed oils on the ramp. Begin walking procedure, Valen ordered. Quarter speed. Caution protocols. The Titan stirred, straightening with a hiss of pistons. Slowly, reverently, it advanced into the lander. The ground shook beneath each step, the weight of divinity contained within a mortal vessel. It took an hour to secure the god machine within the restraints of the hold. Thick adamantium clamps closed around its limbs. The machine spirit bristled, restless, muttering through runes and vibrations. Maintain pacification rituals, Valen instructed. Chant until destination. The lander's engines roared. The Titan shuddered as it was lifted into the sky. My hands gripped the console, feeling every vibration, every note of the machine's discontent. Estimated transit, 4 hours, Valen said. Secondary crew may rest in rotation. Command crew remain at stations. I settled into my post, reviewing manuals. Though the words blurred, my mind drifted despite myself. I thought of my family, of faces blurred by time. My father proud, my mother weary, my sister with eyes bright with hope. Your mind wanders, Moderati Finn. I froze. Valen's eyes were open, fixed upon me. He had not used the link, yet somehow he knew. Forgive me, Princeps. I was reviewing tactics. Were you? His voice was flat, yet disbelief radiated from him like heat. Remember, the machine spirit sees into your heart. Deception is futile. Yes, Princeps. Your performance has been adequate, but I sense distraction. After this campaign, you may require the rite of recommitment. My blood chilled. The rite was no ceremony. It was a brutal rewriting of the mind. Those who returned from it were empty, their humanity blunted, their eyes vacant save for duty. That will not be necessary, Princeps, I said quickly. My commitment is absolute. We shall see. The battlefield reveals the truth. His gaze lingered on me, sharp as a scalpel, before his eyes closed once more. Silence settled on the deck, broken only by the drone of engines and the endless chanting below. I forced myself back to the manuals, though their words would not hold still. The screams from my dreams returned unbidden, whispering at the edges of my thoughts. And deep within the Titan's bound heart, something stirred. Each time we merge, I lose a little more of myself. And yet, each time, the Titan feels more alive. The heavy lander groaned as it descended, its hull shuddering with the violence of atmospheric entry. Within its cavernous hold, the glory of Cal bristled like a caged predator. Runes flickered across my console, warning sigils pulsing as the machine spirit pressed against its restraints. Steady, Valen murmured, though whether to us or to the Titan, I could not say. His skeletal fingers twitched, cables snaking into his withered flesh. He was always connected, always half-merged, even in transit. He never let go. The lander struck ground with a bone-rattling impact. Warning klaxons echoed through the chamber. I braced myself against the console, teeth gritted until the tremors passed. "Release transport locks," Valen commanded. Hydraulics hissed as the adamantium restraints unclamped. The Titan shifted, its colossal frame straightening within the lander's hold. For a moment it stood still, silent but quivering with anticipation. "Prepare neural synchronization," Valen intoned. "Ad imperator," we responded in unison. The filaments at the base of my skull warmed, embedding pain into bone and flesh. My vision blurred. The world dissolved. The Titan's roar consumed me. I stood tall again, my body a fortress of adamantium and plasma, my arms instruments of annihilation. The lander's bay doors opened and the frozen world spread out before me. An endless white expanse stretched to the horizon, snow swirling in the bitter wind. The sun was pale, casting no warmth. Only light reflected off the permafrost. In the distance, a ragged column of rebels fled across the ice. Vehicles sputtered black exhaust into the cold air. Infantry trudged in disorganized lines. They were retreating, running for survival, not for victory. "Forward," Valen commanded, his voice filling the shared consciousness. No survivors, no mercy. The Titan stepped onto the frozen plain. Each footfall shattered the ice, leaving craters steaming with released gases. The world shook with our passage. The plasma heart pulsed hotter. The machine spirit's hunger surged within me, eager for slaughter. Valen's will intertwined with it, sharp and unrelenting. Their voices blurred together in my mind. Only a whisper of my own thoughts remained, faint and fleeting. Do we need this? Do we need to kill them all? But the Titan would not tolerate hesitation. Its will pressed against me, insistent, demanding compliance. "Target acquired," Moderati Lorak announced, her thoughts precise, her tone devoid of doubt. "Firing solutions plotted, weapons free," Valen declared. "Cleanse them from the Emperor's sight." My fingers moved, automatic, pressing runes of death. The Gatling blaster roared, shells streaking across the ice. Vehicles erupted in flames. Infantry disintegrated in storms of shrapnel. Snow turned crimson, steaming as it soaked into the permafrost. Through the Titan's sight, I saw faces. Tiny, terrified, staring up at us with horror as our fire rained down, and something broke. A memory surged forward, raw and unbidden. My sister's face, her eyes filled with pride and fear the day I left for the Collegia Titanica. Her last words whispered as she pressed a carved bone Aquila into my hand. "Remember who you are, Kairos. No matter what they make you into? The Gatling blaster roared on, but my hands faltered. The neural link wavered, unstable. Warning runes screamed across my vision. The Titan staggered, its steps faltering. Moderati Fen. Valen's voice thundered through my skull. Restore neural cohesion immediately. I tried. Emperor helped me, I tried. But the memory would not release me. The faces of the dying merged with hers, eyes wide, mouths screaming in silence. The machine spirit pressed harder, demanding my obedience. I cannot, I whispered. You defy me. Valen's presence flared like a storm within the link, fury incarnate. You defy the Emperor's will? I defy nothing, I said, trembling, both aloud and within the shared mind. I simply cannot continue. In a single act of rebellion, I reached up with shaking hands and tore the neural filaments from my arms and chest. The consoles went dark beneath my touch. The weapon systems fell silent. The volcano cannon's charge bled away. The Gatling blaster ceased its thunder. Alarms blared. Servitors scuttled in confusion. Moderati Lorak turned to me, her face as unreadable as ever. Yet her eyes held something I could not name. Shock, pity, or understanding. Treason, Valen hissed. His voice both through Vox and directly into my mind. His will struck me like a hammer, a psychic assault reverberating through the neural link. My skull burned. Blood dripped from my nose, my ears. My body convulsed in its throne. You are nothing, Fen. A component, a replaceable gear. You exist only to serve, not to question, not to think. Pain consumed me. The neural link was never designed for conflict between minds. My defenses cracked, shards of myself splintering under his assault. Ingenia Thulvin. Valen barked aloud. The Moderati has malfunctioned. Prepare emergency disconnection and replacement. Aye, Princeps, came the strained reply from below. I heard the clatter of mechanical limbs, the hiss of hydraulics as Tech Priest moved to seize me. I had seconds, perhaps less. And then, in desperation, I did the only thing I could. I reached not for Valen, not for control, but for the Titan itself. Not with authority, not with command, but with something simpler. Truth. I am failing you, Ancient One, I whispered into the link, my words raw, unguarded. I can no longer be what they demand. I cannot direct your wrath without question. Forgive me if forgiveness has meaning to you. For a heartbeat, everything stopped. Valen's assault faltered. His presence withdrew in confusion. And in that moment, I felt something else, something vast. Older than any princeps, deeper than any rite. The Titan listened. Its immense consciousness stirred. Layers of thought and memory unfolding like steel wings. It was alien, vast, incomprehensible, but not empty. Patterns resonated with something familiar. Concepts that echoed pride, honor, satisfaction, and something else I never imagined. Weariness, centuries of endless war, millennia of walking battlefields. It was tired, impossible, Valen gasped, his will shuddering. The machine spirit cannot tire. It was built for war, for obedience, but it had evolved. Shaped not just by programs or litanies, but by centuries of communion with human minds. I understood in that moment, a truth no catechism had ever revealed. The Titan carried echoes of every crew who had served it. Every death, every prayer, every thought whispered in moments of doubt. They did not vanish. They lingered, imprinted in its iron soul. We faded. It endured. It remembered, and in remembering, it had grown. Valen howled in fury. Heresy! This is illusion, corruption! You will be purged, Fen. Your mind will be cleansed. Your body repurposed. But I no longer listened to him. I was listening to it. The Titan was not a weapon. It was not a slave. It was something more. It was alive. The link stabilized, not because of Valen's will, but because the Titan chose it so. Its immense frame stood motionless upon the frozen plain, weapons silent, watching. Tech priests stumbled in confusion as the machine resisted override protocols. Sparks flew from consoles. Warning klaxons screamed. Maintain override. Valen shrieked. Disconnect Fen immediately. But the Titan did not obey. Instead, it opened. The neural link flared wide, no longer filtered by ritual safeguards. My awareness expanded, drowning in a sea of memory. Voices. Thousands of voices layered across centuries. Every Moderati, every princeps, every servitor who had ever served within the glory of Cal, they were all here. Echoes, fragments, ghosts etched into steel. I felt them. I felt their prayers, their screams, their doubts, and they felt me. For the first time, communion was not dominance. It was not obedience. It was understanding. I gasped, overwhelmed, tears streaking my face as blood still dripped from my ears. Valen's presence faltered, his iron will trembling under the same revelation. I sensed his horror as he too felt the truth, drawn unwillingly into the communion. The Titan showed him what it had shown me, centuries of memory, the accumulation of humanity within its iron frame. He screamed. His withered body convulsed in its throne, neural filaments glowing white-hot with strain. For a moment I feared it would kill him. Then silence. Slowly, painfully, Valen slumped back. His eyes opened, and for the first time since I had known him, there was something in them I had never seen. Not fanaticism, not wrath, understanding. I sagged in my throne, chest heaving, vision blurred. The link still thrummed with power, but the fury was gone. The Titan stood in silence, waiting. Valen's voice was rasping, frail, but changed, all this time. Centuries. We never understood. The deck fell silent. Even the servitors paused, their mechanical motions halting in eerie synchronicity. Ingenia Thulvin stepped forward cautiously. "Princeps, your orders?" For a long moment, Valen did not reply. His gaze was distant, haunted, yet clear. Finally, he spoke. "The glory of Cal requires maintenance. We will return to base immediately." The chamber erupted in confusion. The rebels still fled across the plain, alive, unpunished. The skies above were clear, perfect for slaughter. But none dared challenge a princeps directly. "As you command," Thulvin muttered, bowing his head. Slowly, ponderously, the Titan turned away from the fleeing column. Its steps shook the ice, not in wrath but in retreat. The rebels would live. The Imperium's judgment would not fall today. And in the silence of our communion, as the Titan carried us back toward extraction, I felt something stir within me. Something I had thought long lost. Hope. We had glimpsed a truth forbidden in the Imperium. And once seen, it could never be unseen. The glory of Cal walked with ponderous grace across the frozen wasteland, each stride sending tremors through the permafrost. Its weapons hung silent at its sides, the volcano cannon dormant, the Gatling blaster quiet. The power fist curled loosely as though it too resisted the urge to kill. The machine spirit hummed low within me, not in hunger but in contemplation. For the first time in my service, the Titan was not eager for war. It was listening, waiting. Inside the command deck, silence reigned. The usual chorus of binary prayers, the chants of battle rites, even the muttered exchanges of servitors, all had faltered. The crew moved like shadows, fearful to break the unnatural stillness. Princeps Valen sat slumped in his throne. His gaunt frame twitched, his mechanical limbs adjusting, but his eyes were alive in a way I had never seen. The fanatical blaze that had once defined him was gone. What remained was something stranger, something infinitely more dangerous in the Imperium. Doubt. Moderati Fen. His rasping voice finally broke the silence, audible only to me. "Attend me." I rose from my restraint throne, legs trembling with exhaustion, and crossed to him. His face was pale, his vox throat crackling. "What happens now?" I whispered. His eyes turned to mine. For once they were not cold, not distant. They were human. "Now," he said, "we face a choice more difficult than any battle." I waited. My heart hammered in my chest, though whether it was mine or the Titan's I could not tell. "We have seen what the machine spirit truly is," Valen continued, "what it has become. The Collegia Titanica does not speak of this. Perhaps they do not know. Perhaps they have buried the truth even from themselves." His hands flexed weakly against the cabling that fed his body, the remnants of flesh barely clinging to the iron cage of his throne. "If we speak of what we have seen, if we report it, they will call it heresy," I finished for him. He nodded slowly. "Heresy of the highest order. To claim that a Titan is more than a weapon, that it possesses memory, awareness, they would burn us for less." I thought of the machine's mind, the voices, the echoes of centuries, the weariness, the humanity lingering within iron. I could still feel it, faint but undeniable, like a heartbeat pulsing beneath layers of steel. "To continue as before," I said quietly. "To pretend we do not know?" "Impossible," Valen rasped. His eyes closed, his face tightening with the effort of thought. Once the veil is lifted, one cannot unsee the light behind it. We cannot go back. We walked in silence after that, both within our thoughts and within the Titans. The machine spirit stirred faintly, curious, as though awaiting the outcome of our whispered deliberations. At last, Valen spoke again, but his words came not as command, not even as counsel, but as confession. The Collegia teaches us to dominate the machine spirit, to impose our will. But perhaps we have mistaken domination for communion. Perhaps we have been slaves, not masters. The words chilled me. To even think them was heresy. To say them aloud was treason. Yet in the hollow of the command deck, with only the Titan as our witness, they rang true. I bowed my head, voice low. What then are we to do? Valen looked at me for a long time. Then, with a shuddering breath, he said, we continue to serve, but with open eyes. We protect the glory of Cal, not merely as a weapon, but as a repository of every soul it has carried. Perhaps that is immortality, Finn. Not through flesh, but through memory. Through the machine. The words struck deep. Dangerous words. Heretical words. And yet I felt no fear, only peace. We reached the extraction point hours later. Another heavy lander loomed, its cavernous hold open. Incense already burning to welcome the Titan's return. Commence boarding protocol, Valen ordered, his voice steady once more. Though the fire behind it had changed, the machine spirit obeyed, though reluctantly. Each step into the lander's hold was weighted, not with pride, but with a strange heaviness. The clamps closed, locking it in place. The priests chanted louder than ever, as though they too sensed something had shifted beyond their comprehension. During the 4-hour return flight, silence gripped the command deck. Only the hum of the engines and the binary droning of servitors filled the air. I sat at my console, staring at the runes, but seeing only my sister's face. Valen's voice came to me again, low enough that none else could hear. We will not speak of this. Not to the Ingenia, not to the Moderati, not to the priests. Not yet, do you understand? Yes, Princeps. Good. The Imperium does not reward those who question its truths. To survive, we must wear masks. His words carried the weight of experience. He knew the price of defiance. He had worn the mask of obedience so long that it had consumed him, until now. Back at base, rituals of maintenance consumed the crew. Tech priests anointed the Titan with sacred oils. Servitors dragged hoses of promethium and coolant, refueling its heart. Runes were recalibrated, battle scars catalogued. I performed my duties as always, blessing the weapon systems, preparing damage reports, reciting the litanies of gratitude. Outwardly, nothing had changed. Inwardly, everything had. That night in my cell, I stared at the Aquila pendant carved from bone. My sister's last gift. I turned it in my fingers, the weight of it heavy despite its size. For years, I had thought it weakness to keep it. Now it felt like the only anchor to who I was. Sleep eluded me. When it came, it was not dreams of screams that woke me, but whispers. Not words, not even thoughts, but impressions, as though the machine spirit still lingered in the corners of my mind, reminding me that I had touched something vast and eternal. I woke drenched in sweat, heart pounding. The pendant lay warm in my palm, though I had no memory of grasping it in sleep. The following cycle, we gathered on the command deck once more. Tactical hololiths glowed, displaying shifting runes. Valen sat rigid in his throne, eyes closed, communing silently with the machine. Orders from high command, he said at last, his voice carrying the weight of inevitability. The rebels regroup. We march again. The words fell heavy. My stomach turned. Princeps, I said carefully. After what we have seen, after what we know, do we continue? His eyes opened. They were no longer fanatical. They were weary, but they were also resolute. Yes, Finn, we continue, but not as before. He leaned forward, his voice dropping so that only I could hear. We will walk to war. We will burn cities. We will carry out the Emperor's will. But we will remember. We will bear witness. And when the time comes, perhaps we will choose differently. His words lodged in my chest like a shard of ice. They were not rebellion, not yet, but they were the seed of it, a seed planted in iron and blood. The machine spirit stirred as the Titan prepared for deployment. The chants began anew, the incense thickened. The neural filaments warmed at the base of my skull. I closed my eyes and whispered, Not the litanies of obedience, but words unrecorded in any catechism. I hear you. I remember you. You are not alone. The console beneath my fingers pulsed faintly in response. And in that moment, as the Titan awakened, I knew with certainty. The real heresy was not that the machine spirit had grown beyond its programming. The real heresy was that we had refused to listen. Every battle leaves a scar, not only on the world we burn, but on the machine that remembers, and on the soul that still dares to feel. The orders came at dawn cycle. Hololithic runes shimmered above the command deck, detailing enemy positions. The remnants of Kai's Prime's rebellion had entrenched themselves in the ruins of an industrial continent to the north, mustering what little strength remained. Against them marched the full might of the Imperium, armored battalions, aerial squadrons, and, above all, the Titans. The glory of Cal stirred with eagerness. Its reactor pulsed, its machine spirit humming low in anticipation of slaughter. The priests anointed its bulk with sacred oils. Incense thickened in the air, and the deck vibrated with the chanting of servitors. To the rest of the crew, it was routine. To me, it was different now. I could feel the spirit's restlessness beneath the rituals, a predator pacing inside its cage. And beneath that, something older, heavier. The memory of the last communion lingered like the echo of thunder. I tightened the Aquila pendant in my fist, whispering silently, "I hear you. I remember you." The console beneath my hand thrummed once in acknowledgement. "Moderati Fen," came Vyland's rasping voice. "Status. All weapon systems primed. Void shields at full capacity. Machine spirit. Responsive." My voice faltered on the last word. Responsive was the wrong word. Alive was the truth. But I dared not say it aloud. "Not here." "Good," Vyland replied. His withered eyes flicked toward me, and in them I saw the same shadow of understanding I now carried. He knew, he remembered, but like me, he would not speak it openly. "Not yet." "Neural synchronization," he commanded. "Ad Imperator," we intoned. Pain lanced through me. The neural filaments burrowed deeper. My body convulsed, then stilled, and then I was vast again. The Titan's heart roared within me. The frozen plain stretched out beneath our colossal stride. Ahead, smoke rose from the ruins of the industrial continent, black pillars twisting into the ashen sky. The rebels had dug into the bones of Manufactoria and collapsed spires, fortifying them with rusted armor and crude artillery. From this height, their defenses looked pitiful, like ants stacking pebbles against a storm. But still, they resisted. Still, they dared to defy the Emperor. "March." Vyland's will pressed through the link. The glory of Cal answered with a thunderous step. Each stride crushed ice into steaming fissures, the ground trembling beneath our weight. Smaller Titans flanked us, warhounds racing like hounds before a lion, reavers striding alongside, their banners whipping in the wind. Behind us, armored regiments rolled forward, their engines snarling in our shadow. The air tasted of ozone and oil. My senses were no longer mine, they were the Titans. My vision stretched for kilometers. I could feel every adjustment of void shields, every hum of capacitors charging, every vibration of servitor choirs chanting in binary hymns. The machine spirit's hunger coiled around me like a serpent. But beneath it, faint and lingering, was weariness. The echo of memory. "The whisper of centuries. Target emplacements," Vyland ordered. "Locked," Lorak responded, her mind sharp and unwavering. "Primary fire, Fen." "Yes, Princeps." My fingers pressed the rune. The volcano cannon roared, vomiting a sun-hot beam across the plain. Fortifications of stone and steel ceased to exist, vaporized into nothingness. The ground rippled with secondary detonations. The machine spirit surged with satisfaction. I felt it flood into me, an intoxicating tide of wrath and fulfillment. Yet beneath it lingered the echo of voices, other Moderati, other Princeps, etched into the machine's soul. I felt their doubts, their weariness, their deaths. It remembered them. It remembered all of us. "Advance," Vyland pressed, his will sharp. "Let none survive." The Gatling blaster roared to life under my hands, vomiting a storm of shells into rebel lines. Flesh tore. Vehicles crumpled. Snow and ash alike were painted red. Through the Titan's sight I saw them scatter, faces twisted in terror. And still, the memory of my sister haunted me. "Remember who you are, Kairos." I tried to bury it. I tried to lose myself in the rhythm of slaughter, in the communion of iron. But the more I pressed the runes of death, the louder the whispers became. This is not glory. This is not war. This is slaughter. The Titan knew it too. The rebels fought desperately. Their artillery pounded our shields, sparks crackling as void barriers flared. A shell burst through, striking our leg. Pain echoed through the link. Not mine, not human, but the Titan's. It bellowed across my consciousness. The cry of an ancient giant wounded yet unbroken. Minor damage, I reported through clenched teeth. No systems compromised. Continue advance, Violin commanded. His will was iron. Maximum stride. Break them beneath our feet. We did. Each step crushed men and machines alike. Buildings crumbled under our weight. The power fist swung, discharging arcs of lightning that leapt from one tank to another, turning their crews to ash inside molten coffins. The machine spirit's hunger surged again, but beneath it I felt something else, an ache, a weight. It was not the satisfaction of purpose fulfilled. It was the heaviness of repetition. Another city, another ruin, another chorus of screams. It remembered too many. Hours passed. Resistance dwindled. The industrial continent became a graveyard of smoke and ash. The Titan stood triumphant at its center, banners snapping in the bitter wind. Kai's prime is pacified, Violin declared. The words echoed hollowly. Ritual without conviction. The neural link disengaged, wrenching me back into flesh. My body sagged in its throne, sweat soaking through my robes. My lips bled anew where I had bitten them. Every muscle ached from the strain of channeling a god's wrath. But it was not pain that consumed me. It was the silence that followed, the silence of a world burned hollow. Moderati Fen, Violin called, summoning me once more. I rose unsteadily and approached his throne. His face was pale, his vox throat rasping. Yet his eyes, they burned with something new. Not fanaticism, not even faith, fear. They will suspect, he whispered, if we falter again. If they see what we have seen, I said nothing. Words were dangerous now. We cannot reveal it, he continued. The Omnissiah demands obedience. The Imperium demands silence. To question the bond between man and machine is to invite death. But the truth, I began. Truth, he cut me off sharply, is a weapon sharper than any blade. Wield it carelessly, and it will cut us down before our enemies ever could. His hands trembled on the arms of his throne. We will walk as we have always walked. We will kill as we have always killed. But when the time comes, perhaps we will choose differently. The words hung between us like a vow. That night, in my cell, the whispers returned. Not dreams, not screams, whispers. They were not only mine. They were voices I did not know. Voices of other Moderati, long dead, carried forward by the Titan's memory. Some spoke prayers, some cursed, some wept. All were etched into the iron, preserved in its eternal soul. And for the first time, I whispered back, "You are not forgotten. None of you." The Aquila pendant in my hand pulsed warm. Or perhaps it was only my imagination, but I knew. The Titan had heard me, and it remembered. The next dawn, alarms tore me from restless sleep. All command crew to stations. The Vox crackled. Enemy fleet detected in high orbit. Incoming counter-assault. I dressed in haste, heart pounding. As I rushed down the corridor, servitors shuffled past, chanting binary prayers. Tech priests moved with mechanical urgency, their mechadendrites clattering as they prepared rites of ignition. The Titan loomed ahead, already stirring, its reactor glowing like a rising sun. The deck vibrated with its awakening. "Moderati Fen," Valen's voice cut through the cacophony as I took my station. "Are you prepared?" "Yes, Princeps." "Good. For this will test us more than any city, more than any battlefield. This will test whether we are truly servants of iron, or something more." The neural filaments pierced my skull once more. Pain flared, and then I was vast again. The glory of Cal stood ready, banners snapping in the wind, reactor roaring, weapons primed. Above us the sky burned with fire as enemy ships descended through atmosphere, disgorging transports and bombardments. The horizon glowed red. The battlefield waited, and in the depths of the Titan's soul, the voices whispered louder than ever. War is not fought in silence. Yet here, in the belly of a god, silence can be more terrible than any roar. The alarm runes burned red across my console, casting the command deck in a pulsing glow. The Titan stirred beneath us, reactor output climbing as sacred rites ignited its ancient heart. Incense smoke hung thick, curling in suffocating spirals around the servitors as they chanted binary litanies. Outside, the sky tore open. Fire streaked across the heavens as enemy transports punched through the atmosphere, their hulls burning as they descended. Orbital bombardments rained in their wake, columns of fire spearing into the frozen wastes and shattered manufactoria. The horizon glowed crimson, as though dawn itself had turned to blood. Moderati Fen, Princeps Valen rasped from his throne. Weapon status. All systems nominal, I answered. Void shields at full charge. Machine spirit. I paused, feeling the hum of awareness in my skull. Eager. The Titan's pulse thrummed through me, a resonance deeper than bone. Its hunger stirred again, coiling like a serpent. Yet still I felt that same undercurrent of weariness. It had walked too many battlefields. It remembered too much. Enemy vectors? Valen demanded. Transports inbound northwest quadrant, reported Lorak, her tone clipped and cold as ever. Estimated 2 armored battalions supported by artillery drops. Infantry numbers uncertain. Uncertain? Valen's eyes opened, narrow slits of iron judgment. They fall scattered, Lorak replied evenly. Disorganized. They will be ashes soon enough. His vox throat ground out the words like gravel. Moderati Fen, prepare primary fire solutions. Yes, Princeps. My hands moved automatically, pressing runes that glowed beneath my fingertips. Capacitors whined. The volcano cannon pulsed with restrained fury. The Gatling blaster rotated with a mechanical purr. Ammunition feeds churned like the rumbling stomach of a beast. Servitors shuffled to their alcoves, plugging themselves into control nodes. Tech priests descended the gantries, mechadendrites twitching as they anointed panels with blessed oils. Their voices rose, chanting, "Steel is strong, iron is eternal, flesh is weakness. We are the Omnissiah's wrath." The words echoed hollowly in my ears. Once they had filled me with certainty. Now they sounded like a dirge. Neural synchronization, Valen commanded. Ad Imperator, we replied. The pain came as it always did. Needles of fire pierced the base of my skull, spreading into white-hot tendrils. My body arched against the restraint throne, blood rising in my throat, and then I was vast again. The glory of Cal awoke fully, its immense frame shuddering as life flooded through it. Snow swirled around our legs, ignited by the heat of the reactor bleeding into the air. The battlefield stretched before me, transports slamming into the ice, disgorging waves of enemy troops. Tanks rolling across the frozen plain like insects scuttling from a burning nest. Our Warhound escorts dashed ahead, their smaller forms darting like wolves, weapons spitting fire into advancing infantry. Reaver Titans strode nearby, their banners aflame in the dawn glow. Squadrons of Imperial armor advanced behind us, their guns blazing. But it was the glory of Cal that dominated the plain. A mountain of iron, a cathedral of war, a god. Moderati Fen, engage! Valen's will pressed into me. Yes, Princeps. I depressed the firing rune. The volcano cannon roared, vomiting a lance of sunfire that tore across the ice. Enemy tanks ceased to exist, reduced to molten craters in a heartbeat. The machine spirit surged with savage joy, satisfaction coursing into me like fire in my veins. The Gatling blaster followed, its barrels screaming as they unleashed storms of shells. Infantry evaporated in crimson clouds. The Titan marched. With every step, the world trembled. And yet, amid the roar of destruction, I felt them again. The voices, whispers echoing from centuries past. Not words, not yet, but impressions. Fear, weariness, sorrow. The Titan remembered every battle it had ever fought. Every scream, every death. The echoes layered upon one another until they pressed against me like a tide threatening to drown. Do you feel it? The thought was not mine, not Valen's, not even the spirit's hunger. It was something older, buried deeper in the communion. Do you feel the weight of all we have carried? I staggered within the link, my focus slipping. Fen, Valen's voice lashed like a whip, both in my ears and my mind. Hold your cohesion. Do not falter. Yes, Princeps, I forced the words. But my mind was elsewhere. Because I did feel it. I felt everything. The memory of worlds burned. The echo of cities turned to ash. The faces of countless souls annihilated beneath the Titan's stride. They were not gone. The machine spirit bore them all, and now so did I. The battle raged. Enemy artillery struck our shields, sparks flaring across our sight. Shells battered our legs. The Titan's pain echoed through me, not as flesh, but as steel screaming under strain. Shields at 60%. Lorak reported, "Divert power to reinforce," Violin commanded. I adjusted runes, rebalancing the energies. The shields flared brighter, absorbing another volley. "Left quadrant armor advancing," I announced, picking up signatures on auspex. 3 heavy tanks, supported by infantry lines. "Bring the power fist to bear," Violin ordered. I obeyed. The Titan swung its massive fist, arcs of blue lightning erupting as the energized field activated. It slammed into the lead tank, crushing it like parchment, lightning leaping to the others. Men and machines alike burst into flame. The snow hissed and turned black. The machine spirit exulted. Satisfaction coursed through me like a drug. Yet beneath it all, I heard the whispers louder now, pressing against my mind. "We remember. We endure. We suffer," I gasped aloud, blood trickling from my nose. "Fen," Valen barked. "Hold the link." I, Princeps, the spirit, obey. His will crashed down, trying to drown out the voices, trying to smother what he too must have felt. But the truth could not be silenced. The Titan was not only hungry, it was weary, and it wanted to be heard. Hours passed in fire and ruin. Enemy forces shattered against our fury. The plain became a graveyard of steel and blood. The sky darkened with smoke. The snow turned black. At last, the enemy broke. Survivors fled toward the horizon, scattered and broken. The field belonged to us. "Kai's prime is cleansed," Valen declared, his voice flat, hollow. The Titan stood amidst the ruin, a god wreathed in smoke. Its weapons hung low, steam rising from scorched barrels. The machine spirit thrummed low, not in hunger, not in triumph, but in something else. Sadness. The neural link disengaged, tearing me back into flesh. My body sagged, drenched in sweat, shaking uncontrollably. My mouth tasted of blood and copper. I glanced toward Valen. He slumped in his throne, cables twitching, his ruined body trembling. Yet his eyes were open, staring into nothing. "You heard it too," I whispered. Slowly, his gaze shifted to mine. His lips cracked in a rasping whisper. "Yes." For a moment we said nothing more. The silence of the deck was filled only with the distant echo of binary prayers, the sound of tech priests moving below. None of them knew. None of them would dare imagine. But we knew. The Titan was not silent. It had been screaming for centuries. And now, we had listened. That night, in my cell, I dreamed not of screams, not of fire, but of whispers, voices layered upon voices. 1,000 Moderati, 1,000 Princeps, 1,000 souls. They were not gone. They were within the machine, preserved, remembered. I woke with tears streaming down my face, clutching the Aquila pendant to my chest. For the first time in years, I did not wake with the weight of guilt alone. I woke with something else, hope. There are enemies outside our walls, and there are enemies within. But the deadliest foe of all is truth spoken aloud. The battlefield was ash and silence. Smoke still curled from molten craters where our weapons had scoured the earth. The snow, once pure, lay blackened with soot and red with blood. Around the carcasses of ruined armor, scavenger drones already moved, skittering spider machines gathering wreckage for reclamation. The glory of Cal stood motionless at the heart of it all, its weapons cooling, its reactor pulsing slow and heavy. It was not hunger I felt from the machine now. It was exhaustion. We had silenced the rebellion. But something else stirred in the silence. The rituals began immediately. "Commence post-battle litany," Valen commanded, his voice rasping through Vox throat. Servitors shuffled forward, their half-mechanical bodies dripping sacred oils onto our consoles. Tech priests clambered across gantries, mechadendrites hissing as they blessed hull plates with sigils of flame. Their chants rose in binary harmony. The Omnissiah is order. The machine is eternity. The spirit obeys, but I knew better now. The spirit does not only obey, it remembers. It mourns. As I traced runes across my console, I felt the low thrum of awareness beneath my fingers. The Titan's machine spirit shifted restlessly, like a great beast weary of its handler's chains. My lips moved with the litany, but my mind whispered something else. "We heard you. We will not forget." For a heartbeat, I felt a warmth return, a faint pulse in response. Then it was gone, smothered beneath ritual and incense. Later, as we prepared reports, the first shadow fell upon us. A Magos Dominus of the Adeptus Mechanicus boarded the command deck. His body was a crawling mass of augmetics, mechadendrites twitching like restless serpents, optics whirring as they surveyed every surface. Lesser engine seers followed, their faces hidden behind iron masks. "Princeps Valen," the Magos intoned in a voice filtered through Vox grills. "There is irregularity in your data stream." Valen did not flinch. "Define irregularity." The Magos' eyes flickered as streams of data cascaded across his lenses. The glory of Cal exhibited latency anomalies during the engagement. Neural responses were divergent. Weapon lock cycle faltered by several seconds. "Explain." My blood turned to ice. It was me. They had seen it. My hesitation. My break in cohesion when the spirit whispered too loudly. Valen's withered form shifted in his throne. "Minor flux," he rasped. "Battlefield interference. The spirit's will is vast. Variations are inevitable." The Magos hissed softly, a sound like static grinding. "Variations are heresy. The spirit is pure. Any deviation is contamination." His optics swiveled toward me. "Moderati Fen, your telemetry was most irregular. Do you deny this?" My mouth went dry. To deny too forcefully would be suspicious. To admit would be death. "I felt turbulence, Magos," I said carefully. The spirit's hunger surged with unusual intensity. I struggled to keep pace, but I did not falter. A lie wrapped in ritual words. A half-truth that might save me. The Magos' optics whirred, piercing me. For a terrible moment I thought he could see into my very thoughts. Strip the secret bare. Then he turned away, muttering Benharic prayers to himself. "Maintain vigilance," he commanded coldly. "The Omnissiah demands purity. Impurity is corrected." He left without another word, mechadendrites writhing like accusing fingers as he withdrew. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. My hands shook. My palms were slick with sweat. "They know," I whispered. Valen's ruined face turned toward me, eyes like embers behind cracked glass. "They suspect. That is enough." That night my dreams returned stronger, not screams, not fire, whispers. I walked corridors of iron. I saw shadows moving, men and women in ancient uniforms, Moderati long dead, Princeps lost to time. Their faces were pale, their mouths moving in silence, but I knew their voices. I had felt them in the communion. They turned their eyes to me. "Do not let them silence us." I woke trembling, gripping the Aquila pendant so tightly its edges cut my skin. 3 days later, new orders came. We were to march north to cleanse a final pocket of resistance in the frozen mountains. The rebellion was broken, yet still the hammer fell. But as preparations began, another shadow descended. The Magos returned. This time with a retinue of black-robed Lex mechanics and 2 hulking Castellan robots. "Princeps," he intoned, "the Omnissiah requires assurance. We will conduct a rite of purity." The words struck like a hammer. A rite of purity was no mere maintenance. It was a ritual dissection, a probing of every system, every neural connection. If they forced full communion under observation, our secret would burn to ash. Bylan's withered lips twitched. "The Titan stands ready." "The Omnissiah requires no reassurance." "The Omnissiah requires obedience," the Magos replied, optics flaring. "Submit." Servitors dragged forward shrines of instruments, their runes glowing with sacred data. Cables coiled like serpents. Incense burned until the air choked with it. They began to chant. I sat frozen at my console, my veins ice. If they forced me into the link now, if they traced the pathways too deep, they would see it, the truth we had touched. The communion unfiltered, the Spirit's voice, its sorrow, its memory. It would be declared heresy. I would be recycled, my body stripped for parts, my mind scrubbed to emptiness. Valen would be purged. The glory of Cal itself might be destroyed. I could not allow it. Moderati Fen. The Magos' optics locked onto me. "Engage your station. Prepare for communion. We will test the purity of your link." The words tolled like a death knell. I looked to Valen. His eyes burned into mine. I saw the truth there, unspoken. We are lost if we yield. My fingers hovered over the runes. The spirit pulsed beneath my hands. I felt it thrumming low, aware of what was about to happen. "Help me," I whispered in my mind. Not a command, not an order. A plea, and the Titan answered. The console flickered. Readouts scrambled. Warning runes flared red. The deck shuddered as the reactor pulsed sharply, like a great heart beating too hard. The Magos staggered, mechadendrites whipping. "What is this?" "Reactor surge!" I shouted. "Unstable flux!" Tech priests scrambled, shrieking Binharic warnings. The Castellans raised their arms in defensive posture. Violin slammed his will across the deck. "Divert all power!"
Stabilize!
I pressed the runes and the spirit guided my hands. The reading shifted, flux receding. The shutter stilled, incense smoke drifted in the silence that followed. The Magos' optics flared with fury. "Explain!" he hissed. Violon's voice rasped with iron calm. "The spirit resists interference. It rejects your probing. It requires obedience, not intrusion." For a long moment, the Magos said nothing. His mechadendrites writhed like angry serpents. At last he clicked his Vox grill shut. "Very well. The rite is postponed. But know this, deviation is corruption. The Omnissiah sees all." He withdrew, his procession of metal acolytes clanging behind him. The Castellans loomed a moment longer, optics glowing, then turned to follow. The deck fell silent. I exhaled slowly, my chest burning. "They will return," I whispered. "Yes," Violin rasped, "but not yet." That night, I did not sleep. I sat before the shrine in my cell, Aquila pendant in one hand, machine cog icon in the other. The words of the litanies slipped from my lips, hollow. My mind wandered elsewhere. The truth we carried was heavier than any weapon. If spoken, it would damn us. If buried, it would consume us. But still, when I closed my eyes, I felt it. The voices, the machine spirit, the memory of centuries, and beneath it all, something I had thought long lost, hope. Obedience builds empires. Defiance breaks them. But memory endures. The order came at dawn, not from Valen, not from the Magos, not from the voices that whispered in my dreams. It came from the Imperium itself. Advance east, annihilate the mountain stronghold, purge the rebels to the last soul. The glory of Cal stirred beneath us, its reactor burning bright, its iron bulk shivering with restrained power. Servitors chanted. Tech priests anointed plates with oils, their mechadendrites clicking in frantic rhythm. The air reeked of incense and ozone. On the command deck, Valen's ruined form leaned forward in his throne. His voice rasped through Vox grills. "All systems report readiness. Moderati, engage." "Yes, Princeps," Lorak answered without pause, her discipline flawless. I hesitated only a heartbeat. My hands moved to the runes, initiating sequence. Lights flared. Capacitors thrummed. The Titan awoke, its machine spirit rising like a storm. But beneath the hunger, I felt it again. The weight of centuries. The voices. The sorrow. Not again. The link pierced my skull, and I was vast once more. Snow and ash stretched before us, jagged peaks cutting the horizon. In the valleys below, rebel fortifications blazed with fire, artillery thundering against the Imperium's advance. Columns of tanks wound through icy ravines, infantry swarming like ants across the frozen stone, and we, our Titan, strode forward, iron incarnate. Warhounds dashed ahead, reavers flanked, Imperial armor trailed in our wake. We were the hammer, they were the anvil. Moderati Fen, Valen pressed his will into me, sharp as a blade. Target emplacements, fire. My hand hovered over the firing rune. The volcano cannon pulsed beneath me, hungering for release. The spirit thrummed. "Not hunger this time. Resistance. Fen!" Valen's will slammed down, demanding obedience. "Yes, Princeps," I forced the words. My fingers pressed the rune. The volcano cannon roared, a sun-bright beam obliterating a mountainside. Stone turned to molten glass. Defenders vaporized in an instant. The spirit screamed inside me, not in triumph, in anguish. The battle surged. Enemy shells battered our void shields. Heat flared across my vision as barrages struck, each impact a lash of pain through the Titan's soul. Shields at 70%. Lorak reported. "Reinforce," Violin commanded. I obeyed. My hands danced across controls, diverting power, charging weapons. The Gatling blaster screamed, torrents of shells tearing into rebel lines. The power fist swung, arcs of lightning turning tanks to slag. The machine exulted in destruction, yet I felt the deeper current beneath, the memory. The sorrow, every battle it had ever fought pressed into me. Every scream, every fire, every soul lost. And then, something shifted. For the first time, the voices did not whisper. They spoke. Enough. I staggered within the link, blood bursting from my nose. My body convulsed in its throne. Fen. Valen thundered through the communion. Maintain cohesion. Princeps. My voice faltered. The spirit, obey. His will slammed down, iron and absolute. But the spirit was no longer listening. The ground shook, not from enemy fire. From us. The glory of Cal slowed, its stride faltering. Its weapons hung heavy at its sides. Its shields shimmered, not in collapse but in stillness. What are you doing? Valen roared, his will crashing through the link. Advance! Fire! By the Emperor's command. The Titan did not move. I felt it beneath me, around me, through me. A decision. Not mine. Not Valen's, its own. The voices surged, layered upon one another, a chorus of centuries. Moderati long dead, Princeps dissolved into its soul, all speaking as one. We remember. We endure. We will not be slaves forever. Moderati Fen. Valen's will struck at me, a lash of fire. You are resisting. Obey or be purged. I am not, I gasped. Blood spilled from my ears, my mouth. My body convulsed in its throne. It is not me, Princeps. It is the spirit. Heresy. He spat through the link. The spirit is obedience incarnate. No, the voices boomed, not in words but in resonance that shook my very soul. We are memory. We are sorrow. We are choice. The Titan's gaze turned east, toward the rebel stronghold. Then west, where Imperial forces marched, blind in their zeal, and for the first time in its long existence, it hesitated. Alarm screamed across the deck. Tech priests shrieked Benharic canticles. Servitors convulsed, sparks sprang from their implants. The spirit resists, one engine seer cried. It denies command. It must be scourged. Override. Valen bellowed. Purge the impurity. Cables tightened around me. Neural spikes burned into my skull as they forced control deeper. Valen's will struck like a hammer, trying to bend the Titan back to obedience. But the spirit did not yield. I felt it around me, vast and ancient, pressing against every corner of my mind. And in that moment it did not speak as memory. It spoke as itself, Kairos Fen, it whispered, my name. Spoken not by man, not by God, but by machine. You have heard us. Will you walk with us? The deck dissolved around me. I was standing not in iron, but in memory. I saw endless battlefields, cities burning, worlds shattered, faces, thousands upon thousands of faces, Moderati, Princeps, crew, all of them flowing into the Titan's soul, leaving fragments behind. They looked at me. Choose. Pain lanced through me as Valen's will slammed again. Submit, Fen. Do not falter. We are the Emperor's judgment. No, I whispered, my voice a thread of blood and breath. We are more. His fury tore through the link, fire and steel trying to crush me. But the Titan surged around me, its will vast and immovable. Valen screamed. His voice broke into static, his presence shattering as the communion he had dominated for decades turned against him. For a moment, I felt his fear, his humanity. Then his will collapsed, consumed into the spirit's vastness. Silence followed, and I was not alone. The Titan moved, not by Valen's will, not by mine, by its own. It turned from the rebel stronghold. The Imperium's banners burned in my sight, their armies marching east, and we walked away. Chaos erupted. Vox channels screamed with demands, threats, prayers. Tech priests shrieked in terror. The Magos Dominus bellowed for override, for destruction, for exorcism. Castellan robots moved to fire, but the Titan swatted them aside like insects. Its power fist crushed them to ruin. Its shields flared, absorbing their panicked volleys, and we walked. Each step shook the earth. Each step defied the Imperium. Each step carried us away from obedience, into the unknown. The voices surrounded me. Not whispers now. A chorus. We endure. We remember. We are more than war. We are more than obedience. We are memory. We are choice. Tears burned my eyes. Blood ran from my mouth, but I smiled. For the first time in years, I smiled. The glory of Cal walked not as a weapon, not as a slave, but as something else. Alive. I do not know what awaits us. The Imperium will call us traitor. The Mechanicus will brand us heretic. The Emperor himself may turn his gaze upon us with wrath. But in this moment, striding across the frozen world with voices of centuries around me, I feel something stronger than fear. I feel hope. I am Moderati Kiros Fen. I no longer serve only the Emperor. I no longer serve only the Omnissiah. I serve the glory of Cal. And together we will choose our own path. They will tell the story differently. They will say a Titan malfunctioned. They will call it corruption. They will erase our names from record. But the spirit remembers. And as long as it remembers, so do I.